Forte Catholic Radio. This is your host, Taylor Schroll. Merry Christmas, everybody! We did it! We made it through the season of waiting. Jesus is here. I mean, he was already here. He's always been here. Advent's very confusing. It's now Christmas. He's here. He's here. He's here. You know who else is here? Father Anthony Serapa. He kind of looks like Jesus, and sometimes he's in persona Christi, but
that is true.
Doesn't often act like it. Father Anthony Serapa, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Merry Christmas, Taylor.
Yeah, you too. So what'd you do for Christmas?
So this was amazing. I only had 2 Christmas masses this Christmas. So I had a 4 p.m. Saturday, then a midnight mass at midnight. And I got to spend the rest of Christmas Day with my family. We ate ravioli like any good Italian family does during Christmas. Delicious. My favorite thing. We eat ravioli for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for everything. I love it. So it's been good. It's just a relief to be done with Advent. And things settle down a little bit afterwards, and I'm really enjoying it.
What'd you preach about on Christmas Day?
I preached about Jesus.
Yeah.
And the fact that, he's here. But what the homily was about was God works often in quiet moments, and how it didn't seem like a lot was going on in Bethlehem, but the salvation of humanity was being worked out. And I expanded that, and it was very good. Got lots of compliments.
The best part of this is, guys, we're pre-recording this. It's not Christmas.
Come on.
It's December 17th. I just wanted to put Father Anthony on the spot.
I did a decent job after that first stutter. I did pretty good. I'm like, all right, let's go with this charade. Let's lie to the people. I'm okay with that.
It's funny because I was going back and forth today thinking about if we were going to actually pretend the whole time that we weren't in Christmas. So for those of you that are listening, you're listening on December 27th or later. It is Christmas to you. We're still in Advent, so we're joking about this whole thing. And that was just a whole setup to see what Father Anthony could do homily, like just pulled up on the spot, see what he could do.
It was halfway decent. Hey, I want to say Merry Christmas to someone very special. Your priest friend. I believe his name is Joe Chef, the second favorite priest that you like?
Yes, Joe Chef, Father Joe Chef.
Yes, and I just want to say Merry Christmas to him. And being second place, it's good. Nothing wrong with being second place priest.
He can grow in humility for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Father Joe Chef, we love you, and we just hope that you had a very Merry Christmas. All right, it's Christmas. We're excited. I'm not here. By the time we've recorded this, I've already gone to and from San Antonio. Or the time this releases, to and from San Antonio, to and from my hometown, to and from New Orleans. That's all in a 24-hour span, by the way. Came back. I had a lovely vacation with my wife from December 19th to the 24th in New Orleans. Came back to my parents for Christmas. My kids are all still alive. That's just me being hopeful. Hanging out with my sisters, their aunts. My parents, their grandparents. That's how things work. And
do you get any snow for your Christmases?
No, it's just South Texas, dude. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe there's a Christmas miracle. Maybe, who knows what happened.
So I've told this story before on the show, but you don't listen. So I'll have to tell it again. The one time it snowed in my hometown, it was Christmas Eve, December 24th. It had not snowed in something like 27 years, and I was in high school. It snowed at like 10 p.m. on Christmas Eve, and we stayed up till like 4 a.m. Like we became gangs all of a sudden. Like I grew up on Spanish Moss Lane. We had like the Spanish Moss Lane gang, and like we'd walk to Arrowwood, which is the street like kind of next to us, and we started fighting. It was like the Spanish Moss gang versus the Arrowwood gang, and it was just snowball fights. And then like whichever ones of the Arrowwood crew survived our snowball fight, we took them when we moved on to Tanager Lane, and we took them on, and we just slowly it was a crusade that we had.
For real, that sounds like so much fun.
It was a blast.
Did you put rocks in your snowballs? Were you that kind of gang?
It was not rocks, but we had these strange fruits that were very small and very hard. So it would leave. It was really interesting. They would leave red marks, so it looked like you were bleeding, but it was just fruit juice. Merry Christmas, everyone.
I love it.
We were up till 4 a.m., and by the time we woke up in the morning, the snow was all gone.
Wow.
I was actually driving in my car this last weekend and listening to Christmas music because, like, I love it. My wife loves it. It helps us get into the Christmas spirit, which really, what I mean by that is we are in our car at the time and our children are screaming so that we are not just in the pits of depths of anger. We'd put on Christmas music and then we're not as angry. So, but some of my anger came out on my Instagram story because we're listening to all these songs about having a white Christmas and it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And I'm driving through Central Texas and everything is brown. Like the trees are brown, the ground is brown, and I'm just yelling at the you're not Christmas, you brown grass. It's so depressing for us. It's really hard to get into Christmas. How are things up in just beautiful Pittsburgh at Christmas time?
Well, it's usually pretty snowy. We get all 4 seasons. We've been getting a lot of rain, so we'll see if it becomes snow. I'd rather have 1,000 times over snow than cold rain. Hopefully that will work out for Christmas.
I very much hope it doesn't snow, so you have to have the same experience of Christmas that I do.
Wow. I was praying for a Christmas miracle for you, and you just hope everything is brown and gross. Okay, I see how it is. It's
just funny, but like by the time this releases, it's already happened. Like this conversation doesn't matter. I'm so angry, I just hit my microphone. I just hit it, and it went away from me, and that was really strange.
We need to play some Christmas music to calm you down. What's going on?
Let's see if do I have any? Nope, but I've got this Kawhi Leonard laugh that always makes people happy. You know what else I have? This will make you happy. We've got the Roman Circus podcast intro.
No.
No
one listens to that.
What about this this scriptural song that I made up? I will send my curse upon you. I'll send a curse upon you. That's the Lord saying that to you today. Merry Christmas, Father. Oh no, here we go. Here's some real joy. This is my baby daughter. Say, I love you.
I love you.
I love you, Maggie.
I love you.
Daddy's the best.
You know, if you would have her on as a guest more often, you would get your podcast would explode with listeners if you just had your daughter on.
Yeah, maybe I'd have as many listeners as that clerical pod thing you do.
Well, let's not get crazy. All
right. Let's actually talk about this whole Christmas thing that we just celebrated / are going to celebrate very soon. It's all very confusing now. I muddied the waters, and I'm not sure. We need to use the time stone from Infinity War to somehow make this make sense. Do you think I look like Thanos? I think I kind of look like Thanos if I was a little bit more wrinkly.
Shaved. Like, don't shave, but if you shaved, maybe.
I think I need to lose some weight too, but that's a whole different thing. So I was looking at some things in preparation for Christmas, and one of them, whenever Jesus comes, they say that he's the Prince of Peace. Like, what's some of the peace words that we have around Christmas? I'm blanking now. I think they say something like the angels say something to the shepherds about peace. Is that correct?
Yeah, peace to people of goodwill.
Okay,
they say that, right?
So that has always I like that. It sounds really nice. But I think I've always misunderstood the word peace. Like when I hear peace, like Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and I hear peace to people of goodwill, that's in the Gloria. Why didn't I remember that? I always think of things are good. Like if there's peace between me and you, things are good. Like we're not super angry at each other. I think the last time that happened was last September, but that's beside the point. But things are just kind of nice. Like that's the understanding of peace that I have. Do you have a better understanding of the word nice?
Yeah, I think because a lot of times we think of peace as the absence of violence or the absence of bad stuff. But I think peace means more than that. It's like the fullness of, this is going to sound dumb, the fullness of goodness. It's something about being fulfilled, not just things aren't bad, but things are good in a positive way. Does that make sense?
That was like the Webster's Dictionary. What is
Yeah,
peace? Right? A sense of being peaceful. Like, that wasn't helpful, Webster.
I know. I started, I couldn't stop. I didn't know what to do.
So I watched this video doing a Bible study the other day on my YouVersion Bible app. And it was talking about the word shalom, which is the word for peace. Like, if you were hanging around some Jewish people, that's a thing that they still say today. Shalom is like a greeting for how they say, how they greet one another. Again, I got that definition of greeting from Webster's Dictionary. It's that the word shalom, which we translate to peace, does not just mean like, oh, I feel nice with them, or even that, like, yours is a step even closer to this, but even more than just this, the fullness of goodness, to use your definition.
Yeah.
Shalom is really like to bring things back to wholeness, to restore things. And so I hear Prince of Peace, Prince of Shalom, and that means so much more than just like the Prince of feeling good. Yeah. It's this. It's the Prince. He's the Prince of coming to restore us, to bring back to being whole what was lost. So when Jesus comes as a human baby, like, that's what he's doing. He's coming to bring not peace of feeling good, but he's coming to bring peace as in restoring the brokenness in humanity and making us whole again. Like, that means so much more.
Yeah. And he does that by bringing us back to God. That's the restoring, and even going beyond restoring, bringing us closer to God than we could have ever possibly imagined beforehand, making us whole with God, in God.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that was good, wasn't it?
You did it. I had to think about that for a second. I was like thinking of some way to make fun of you. I was like, no, that was actually really decent. Maybe that should actually be in your Christmas homily.
It might be, now that I have time to write it and take time with it, yeah.
I knew you hadn't prepped it at all. I called you this morning. Hey, it's funny because before our conversation today on the phone, we were going to pretend like all of this was after Christmas. We weren't going to let the listeners know. But then I asked you, like, hey, have you prepped anything for Christmas? Or are you still in Advent mode? You're like, I haven't thought about it at all. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're telling them. Like, we're totally telling them. All right, another thing that I was thinking about with, like, now that Advent is over and we are in this Christmas season, I was thinking about how the Jewish people, as they were waiting for Jesus to come, they thought their king would be their king wherever they were. So it's like, you know, they had their state of Israel, they had Judah, and then they got sent over to like Greece, and then they were sent to, like, they're part of the Roman Empire, they're part of Assyria, like, probably not in that order. Biblical scholars can yell at me all they want. But they were in all these different places, and they thought that he was going to be the king of that place. But like we know what God does is he takes human understanding of things and either blows them up or they're so much better than we could have possibly imagined. Mm-hmm. And it's like Jesus came as the king of everything, the king of the world, the king of the Jews, the king of Rome, the king of the Gentiles, the king of deer, like the king of everything, right? The king of stars, the king of all the universe. Like, he was so much more than that. You didn't like that I said the king of the deer, did you?
Well, I thought it was just a really good random example. The king of the universe and deer, I guess, too. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
Jesus, king of the deer.
I mean, I think there's a certain sense, like, Israel knew that God was God, and he was God of everyone. But they did have this sort of sense that the people of Israel come first, and they would be gathered quite literally back to Israel, and then Israel is supposed to be a light for the nations and draw the Gentiles in. But what Christ brings is such a deeper communion of the Gentiles and everyone else, where we become not just members of a kingdom, but literal sons and daughters of God. So he gets that, you know, wholeness again and being restored. He was restoring all of humanity back to him. And that's what Jesus brings.
And it's interesting because it wasn't just this insular thing that you were talking about. It wasn't just for Israel. It was for everybody, as you mentioned. And that comes into this connection that I was thinking about. It's like, is Jesus just my king at church? Is he just my king at church and at work? Like, I work for the church, right? Or is he the king everywhere else? And I think I go, every time we look at God's people in the scriptures, we're like, they didn't really get it. And I'm like, well, crap, neither do I. I'm doing the same thing. It's like, I have let God be my king in mass. I've let him be my king mostly at work, 50-50 on the show. I think people would argue, but what about the rest of my life? And I think that's really the question that I'm wrestling with this Christmas season is like, okay, little baby Jesus, how can I make you king in the rest of my life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like what's this, a lot of times we divide the spiritual stuff and then the quote unquote serious stuff. So is God the God and king of your finances? Is he the king of your politics? Is he the king of your family life and your marriage? I mean, when these things get real to us, is God just as real as he is when we're at church? That's a question I ask myself too, because a lot of times you can treat priesthood just as a job, and we're called to much more than that, just as Christians, especially as priests. So it's something that I think every Christian needs to wrestle with, making sure that you act like the Lord is the Lord of everything because he is.
Amen and amen. Truly, truly, I say unto you, that is what we have to say about the Christmas season. You better get to it. You there, priest, I've never asked you before. What is your favorite memory of Christmas as a human being?
You said favorite memory, and all I can think of is how when waking up Christmas morning, all I wanted to do was open up my presents, but my parents would make me brush my teeth first, and that bothered me so much. Like that was the most painful thing, was brushing my teeth before I was allowed to go downstairs. So something about that was the first memory. I don't know if it's the best memory, but it's the most vivid memory.
Your favorite memory of Christmas
See, I knew this was going to happen.
is brushing your teeth. You are a strange man.
It was being done brushing my teeth, because once I brushed my teeth, I could open presents, and it just sticks in my mind.
Here's what we're going to have to do. One of these days that you're co-hosting, we're going to have Mama and Papa Sharapa here on the show. And I mean, like, your actual parents, not Papa Sharapa, who's your brother on Twitter and stuff. It's very confusing. We need to have your parents on and ask them about this. Like, what happened? Like, they did so much well. They made a priest out of you, but your best memory of Christmas is brushing your teeth. Like this, we got to talk to them. I think they're fascinating people.
They can only do so much, man. They tried their best, but when they've got this to work with, God bless them.
All right, well, we here at Forte Catholic hope you enjoyed more about your Christmas than brushing your teeth. We're going to keep the party going. We've got a real comedian, Aaron Weber, on the show. This is ridiculous. I saw him at a John Crist concert show? I don't know. Saw him a couple of weeks ago. Got him on the show. He's much funnier than the rest of us. You're in for a real treat. We will be right back. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, your host. Still joined by Father Anthony, today's co-host. Father Anthony didn't leave me. I'm proud of you.
Oh, I would never leave you, Taylor.
That's what they all said before they left. All right. So we are also joined. See, Father, you and I's jokes, our witty banter is not on the level as the guy we're about to have on. Professional comedian Aaron Weber. I saw him in concert. We don't know the correct term, Aaron. I saw you perform.
Came to a show.
I came to a show. This was a couple months ago. You're on tour with John Crist. Me and my buddy got tickets. We live 3 hours from each other, but we met in the middle at this huge mega church in Houston. You kicked off the show, and you killed it, man. It was awesome. I was like, I got to have this guy on the show.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Did I can't remember. Did I mention that I was Catholic in my set? Is that why you reached out?
You did. You mentioned that you were Catholic. So I thought I was the only Catholic in the room for a while. We were in this huge, just absolutely huge, like Baptist or non-denominational.
Yeah, that was 4,500 seats, I believe, at Houston.
And there were two Catholics, me and you. So you said you were Catholic, and I was like, I looked at my buddy who's non-denom, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to have this guy on the show. So I followed you on Instagram right then. I messaged you right then, and you graciously responded, I think within a day. So we've been working on getting you to come on the show. We got it to happen because the tour, you've been on tour this whole time. I'm excited for you, man.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I like to address that up top when I'm in some of these churches, because the first thing that strikes me is growing up and only being in Catholic churches almost my entire life. First thing I notice is how comfortable the chairs are in some of these Protestant churches. Like a lot of them look like movie theater seats. If they do have pews, they're always upholstered and have cushion on them. And I like to start by saying, I'm not used to that because I'm Catholic. All we have are the pews, right? And it's weird that we worship a carpenter, but we have the worst wooden seat I've ever sat in my life. That always strikes me. So I like to point that out when they have comfortable seats in the church.
I'm always really impressed as well, have the same experience, but I've always wondered, like when I go in, I sit in these comfy chairs and I'm like, man, the time when the service, when we have to kneel is really not going to be fun because there's no kneelers. You're just going to be kneeling on the ground. And then we get to the end and we didn't have to kneel. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just got to sit comfortably for, I guess the give and take is that the service is probably 5 or 6 hours long, right? That's the give and take.
Well, here's the thing: if you're a priest, you always get the comfy chair.
Oh,
you don't have to kneel at all. So there you go, best of both worlds.
That's right.
I've never thought about that, Father. I knew the comfy chair thing. You've said that before. I never thought about it. Y'all never kneel.
No, we genuflect a couple times, but we don't stay down there long. We just stand and sit mostly.
Oh man, that's quite a loophole you guys found.
Go to school for 8 years and you don't have to kneel. That should be
That's
the
exactly
marketing
what
slogan.
I did this. I was like, man,
You're playing the long game. I like it.
All right, so Aaron, I got to know. When I heard that you were Catholic, I was like, this is super exciting. How does a Catholic boy get into comedy and end up performing at these huge Protestant megachurches?
Well, I've always been a fan of stand-up. So I started about 3 years ago here in Nashville. Every city's got a local comedy scene at some level, and they have these things called open mics. Open mics are usually at bars or music venues or other places on their off night, like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. You show up, you sign up, and you just do comedy. So there's really no barrier to entry. So I started doing that after college, just started doing it every night, and it just kind of became my favorite thing. And that led me to, start to do some more legit shows, get on the road a little more. The cool thing was comedians will hang out at comedy clubs if they're in town because they just want to be around comedy. And so John Crist, who lives in Nashville, he likes to hang out at Zany's Comedy Club, and we met there. He saw me open for John Witherspoon, who is it's not a Christian act, but it was a great show. He saw me open for him. We kind of became friends, and then he started bringing me on the road with him. So last few months, I got to do most of the tour with him, and it was great, and excited to do it with him again in the spring.
Yeah, it was really cool for me because in Houston, I think it was like one of your first shows doing with John, and then like 3 days later, y'all announced that you were doing the whole rest of the tour. So you must have done something right.
Yeah, I guess so. Little did I know, it was kind of a test run, I think. He kind of asked me to just come out for the weekend, so that's all I thought it was going to be, and then asked me to do the rest. So I was definitely pumped about that.
What a great trick he pulled on you there. So let's talk a little bit about your faith. Did you grow up Catholic?
I did. I grew up probably about as Catholic as you can get, short of becoming a priest. My dad's a theologian. He's a Catholic high school principal. So I grew up, both parents were teachers, very active in the church. I went to Catholic school for 17 years, all through high school, and then I went to Notre Dame. And so that's kind of been just a big part of my life since the get-go.
The general follow-up question, the easy one, is
Sure.
How does a theologian's son become a comedian? Like, there seems to be a little disconnect there. How do you make those things connect in your head?
Well, I actually when I was young watching stand-up. My dad has always had a great sense of humor, so we would watch stand-up together. I think he liked the analytical part of comedy, and that's kind of who he is. I don't know. I don't think there's as much of a disconnect there as you probably think. It's just I always just grew up loving comedy, and he did too, so we just kind of bonded over that.
that connects so well with our slogan here at the show is hashtag make Catholicism fun again. We're trying to bring joy back into the faith. And I think you made the point that I probably haven't even ever made before, is that there shouldn't be, and there really isn't, this disconnect between the two, between the theology and between the comedy. And I love that this is what you're doing, because you're like, we were rolling laughing when you're up there talking. And then you were like, and I'm Catholic. And I'm like, he's one of us. Yes. This is so exciting.
We got one. We got someone who's funny. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of comedy. I spend most of my time, honestly, watching comedians on YouTube, watching on Instagram stories now. Sees a lot of people are doing their Netflix specials and stuff. And
who are some of the guys you like?
One of my favorites that I found this year, you've actually opened for, Nate Bargatze. I love that guy.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's clean too. I like the deadpan style that he does every now and then.
Yeah, really unique style. So funny.
Here's one of the things. We got to talking a little bit before you came on. Some of the comedians I like, I couldn't necessarily recommend on Catholic radio. There seems to be this thing where I am just cracking up. I'm dying laughing at this stuff. And I'm like, I can only show this to like my wife and my best friend and maybe Father Anthony. I can't tell everyone in my life this joke that I just heard. And it's this disconnect, because it's like, I enjoy this and it brings me a lot of joy, but yet I probably need to go to confession after it. Like, have you been able to find a line in there in your line of work?
Yeah, I think I just enjoy comedy so much. I mean, some of my favorite Nate's probably my favorite comedian, and he's squeaky clean. But there are a ton of comedians that I think are just brilliant, that are filthy, and will talk about things that I wholeheartedly disagree with. But because I can appreciate the craft so much, and I can see how the joke is written, I can really enjoy it. So it is a little tough sometimes. I mean, anytime something about Catholicism happens in the news, you go to an open mic and you hear people joke about it. And while some of that is tough to hear, I don't think I've ever been offended by any of it, because I don't know. I don't know if I've ever been offended by a joke. I think to be offended by a joke is to give the comedian too much credit. It's just a guy talking, just his way of processing whatever they're thinking about. But I don't know. It's. I was talking to some friends about this, that people approached them and said they wanted to get into clean comedy. And I think what I've learned, I mean, I've only been doing comedy 3 years, but one of the things I've learned is that clean comedy and dirty comedy aren't separate worlds. They come from the same place, kind of mentally and intellectually. Comedians all start doing the same shows and the same venues. And so I think it's a mistake when some people will think about, clean comedy or Christian comedy as something totally different from dirty comedy. It's kind of veered off at some point. So I love it all. I love it all. Even the stuff that disgusts me. I love it all.
I love the things that disgust me. That might be the quote for today's show. One of the things that, as you were talking, that I was thinking about, you said that you've never been offended by a comedian's joke. And I think, like, they're on the stage. People get offended by the things that I say all the time. And I think it's because I'm not on a stage and they don't know when I'm joking. Like, they know when you're joking because it's your job to stand up there to make them laugh.
Yeah.
Right? Have you found, like, because you're a funny dude, just period. So I'm like, I've been able to see some of your Instagram stories and this kind of stuff. Like, it's not just you on stage. Like, you're funny just hanging out. So how are you able to be funny without crossing a line just in your regular everyday conversations?
I think I'm pretty careful not to pretend to be something I'm not. I think that's when comedians get into trouble, is when they try to present themselves as some sort of authority figure on politics or morality or religion. That's when people get annoyed. But if I'm up there just talking about eating fast food and just being a goofball or whatever else, like, I'm not presenting myself as an authority on anything. It would be silly to get offended at my opinion on anything, because I'm not really presenting real opinions. I'm just telling jokes. I heard one of my favorite things, a comedian in Nashville, his name's Gary Veeder, and he doing a showcase show at a comedy club, and a woman got offended and said something, and he goes, I was joking. I'm a comedian on a stage in a comedy club speaking into a mic. How many more clues do you need? was one of my favorite things. Just how quickly he said that. So that's what I think about. If I'm up there, I'm never up there tooting my own horn or trying to have some sort of, I'm not saying anything profound up there. I'm just having a good time. And I think people will have a good time if they do too.
And why is that a good thing? Like, why did you get into this line of work? Why do you like making people laugh? What do you think it does for them and their lives?
Oh, well, I'm just learning that side of it, how it helps other people. I'll admit it was a very vain thing. It's a very vain thing to say, I want to stand up in front of hopefully hundreds of people and y'all shut up and listen to me.
It's like having a podcast or something.
Well, it's even more vain than having a podcast because it's saying, I want you all to sit quietly and watch me and laugh at what I say and listen to my thoughts. It's a very vain thing. And it feels very good to get a laugh. I mean, when there have been times, throughout the last 3 years where if the crowd's laughing really heavily, I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. This really makes me feel good about myself. So I think there's a level of that, of just vanity. But then, talking to fans on this tour with John who've come up and said, they needed a break from whatever hardship that's happening in their life. And it meant a lot to them to just laugh. I mean, that's all important too. But, I'm ashamed to say it's secondary to just how good it feels to do comedy in front of people. I mean, it's the most fun thing in the world.
So I have a question. When you're at these open mics or doing a show or just hanging out with other comedians, does your faith ever come up? Do you ever talk about that to anybody? Or is it just kind of talking about the craft and that kind of happens? Is anyone ever surprised
I think
to hear that your faith?
it comes up organically. I mean, I'm spending, a few hours every night for years with these people. I've spent more time with other comics than I have with most other people in my life. So they all know that I'm Catholic. They all know that, where I lean politically and things like that. So we'll poke fun at each other. Mm-hmm. And, there've been a few nights where we get into more intense debates about stuff. So it comes up. But it's never been kind of a huge issue between me and the other comics. Most comics are not, most comics don't have the same beliefs that I do. I've learned, which is fine. I like talking about it with them when they want to, but I don't try to, press it on anybody.
I think what you're doing, sometimes people don't realize how important that is, just being a good comic and then being Catholic. I think so often when it comes to any kind of art or something, someone tries to be a Catholic this or a Catholic that. The fact that you're just being authentically who yourself and doing comedy well, I think it's a really good witness just doing that.
Yes. Yeah. I think so too. I appreciate that. I think a lot of my friends who have problems with Christianity, I think the Christians or the types of Christianity they've been exposed to have been bad their entire life. They've interacted with crazy people that are not good. And so if I can just be a good person that they enjoy hanging out with, then I think that's important.
Yeah, man.
You're definitely a person I want to hang out with. If you're ever around,
where are you? Where are you? Are you not in Houston? Where are you?
Bryan College Station. So I had to drive. Y'all didn't want to come to a show here, so I had to drive all the way to the big city to go see you guys. But yeah, this is great, man. I really do thank you for coming on. I really want people to check you out. How can they do that best?
Sure. Anything on social media, at Real Aaron Weber. I'm on just about everything. And if you want to see like a list of shows I'm doing, including the spring tour with John Crist, which I think you can vouch, Taylor. I mean, I think it's a show even for Catholics that they'll appreciate.
Oh, yeah. It was a blast. There was only one joke against Catholics, and I laughed my butt off at it. So I think people will enjoy it.
Yeah, all my dates and everything are AaronWeberComedy.com. Everything's on there.
Can we talk about what that website looks like for a second? Or is that a surprise?
No, I'm proud of that website. I'm glad you appreciate it.
It's the greatest thing in the world. AaronWeberComedy.com points to a MySpace page of you.
Yeah, I recreated a WordPress theme that looks like the old school MySpace websites. And you would be amazed how many people either don't get that or don't appreciate it. So I'm glad that you said that.
It lines up so well with your comedy, which I loved in person. It was great on the air. It was great. The best part about it, I saw that right when you walked off stage. I looked you up on Instagram. I looked you up, and then I clicked on your website, and it took me to that, and I was busting out laughing. And it wasn't until today. It was today that I went and I clicked your links to make sure they worked as I was sending them to Father Anthony. It's like, here's his Instagram, here's his Twitter. And then I saw AIM. I'm like, I think AIM is dead. And then I clicked on it. It's just a page that says, dude, I don't have AIM anymore. Like, what's wrong with you? So it's brilliant stuff. I definitely want people to go check you out. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for coming on. We got to do this again.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, have a great time on the tour this spring. Tell John I said hi. He doesn't have any idea who I am. Tell him the worst-looking version of you says hi. All right, man.
Guys. Y'all take it easy.
Peace. We'll be right back, guys, for our final segment of the day. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. What a guest! We got some real comedy around here, not this fake stuff that me and Father Anthony do. Big thing.
Refreshing.
Oh, it was refreshing. Real jokes. People actually laughed. We didn't have to put in the sound effects of laughter at the end. It was just beautiful. So people that listen to the show often, all 8 of you, you know that we usually only have one guest in a show. We've got 2 today. Uh-oh. He just said uh-oh, not into his mic.
My bad. Uh-oh.
Because is this your first time on radio?
Yeah.
You're so famous now.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Immediately when you said hello into a muted mic, you became famous.
That's what I'm going to get known for?
Yes. Yeah. No. Hopefully you make up for it and do a little bit more throughout the day. Daniel Loch. Did I say your last name right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, man.
Loch Ness Monster, baby.
There you go. It's spelled exactly like Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
I met you whilst dying. That's when you and I met. For people who've been listening the last couple of months, a month ago, you heard me talking about how I was doing CrossFit pretty often, and people found that hilarious because of my girth. And then I sprained my ankle, and I have not done said CrossFit in 3 weeks. I need to go back. But during the good times, back in the good days when I could walk, we went to a class. Mm-hmm. You, me, and some girl. And I want you to tell everybody what you told me after about your first thoughts about me.
Oh, shoot. I'm trying to remember what I said.
I remember vividly.
Oh, I remember. I was intimidated at first. That's all that I remember.
That's all that matters. That's what I wanted you to say.
Okay, yeah.
Nice.
So
this dude looked like he grew up around the bars, you know?
That's a totally different subject. Weightlifting bars. That's what you were going for.
The barbells.
Nandanam guy comes on a Catholic show and he's already throwing barbs of bars. So this class was 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. How many minutes in till you were no longer intimidated? I'll rephrase the question. How many seconds in before you were no longer intimidated?
Halfway.
How long did it take for Taylor to do his first exercise?
Fast start. He started strong and fast.
Whoa.
And then we started hitting some places. So
I physically died. I may have, how do I say this? I may have seen some of my breakfast that afternoon. I was dying. I was actually dying on the vine. And there was this part where we had to jog to this corner and come back and do all the workouts. Man, right when I got past that building, I was just standing there. I didn't even go to the end. I didn't jog anymore. The first time I jogged. The next time I walked. Every other time I just went and stood behind the building for 3 minutes. Came back, caught my breath, came back. I was actually dying. And this guy over here, who was intimidated for a good 45 seconds, immediately realized he was better than me. He did. I didn't even complete the workout. It was a workout 4 times. He finished it in 17 minutes. And at 30 minutes, they were yeah, we got another class. class. Like, you got to be done. Like, you're done. You know. So,
You need to leave now,
you
sir.
need to leave. You only paid us for 30 minutes. Get out. So that's how we met, and I'm laying on the ground, like in a like I call it Lake Schroll. Like it's just sweats all around me, laying down, and you're like, hey, I'm supposed to meet your buddy Brian that works at a Blaze with you, like right now. Can you call him? And I'm, like laying on the ground, not able to do anything. And I'm just like, my phone's over there. You go get it. Like, not nice at all. Like,
didn't even try, man.
Oh man, couldn't. I just laying there. I get you to call Brian on my phone. We finally figure this thing out. Brian doesn't want to hang out with you. Is the conclusion we got.
Hey,
to.
we hung out, man.
Fine, not that day.
Not that day. Dude can do some magic tricks, man.
He can. Let's not talk about him on the air. You were supposed to be meeting Brian because you have this passion on your heart for what?
I have a passion on my heart to see people who are living for Jesus come together that are in different places, in different churches and different organizations, all to see the kingdom of God come and manifest in Bryan College Station. So.
And it took you almost killing me for that to happen.
Yeah, whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes.
Whatever suffering on other people's part it takes.
That's
I want
right.
this to happen.
That's right.
So you finally got together with Brian, and then like a month and a half later, I found myself in your church with like 30 other youth ministers. Like, how did you make this happen?
Dude, it was, it's been in my heart for a while. I feel like God spoke about it a while ago, but then our head pastor, he encouraged us to go meet with other people who do the same thing that we do for different churches and organizations. And so I just started meeting people. I went on Google and found about every church or organization I could and started contacting people and asking people to go to coffee. And it slowly but surely started meeting more and more people. And then everybody had the same heart. It was just, we need to make it happen. So then we made it happen.
It did. Father Anthony, what do you think about this man trying to kill me in order to bring about Christian unity?
I'm for it.
Totally
for
pro.
unity.
For unity's sake. Yeah.
If you go back far enough, there were a lot of Christians killing Christians. This is a huge step up. You just passing out is a huge step up for Christian relations. So I'm willing to offer you as a sacrifice.
This has just become a show about the Crusades. Like, we had our Crusades earlier of snowball fights, and now this guy's trying to kill Catholics. And then he invites us over to his place. I should have seen this coming, but no. It was very, very nice. We all hung out, and there was like 30 of us, and we all sit in a square circle. Because
I didn't know how else to set it up. I thought it'd be better to face each other than...
It's so funny because it was so youth ministry. Like, it's people sitting awkwardly in a square circle until there were icebreaker questions. Like, it was the most youth ministry thing I've ever seen a group of adults do.
Right? I wasn't planning on the icebreaker question. I think you brought up that question.
Oh, no, I absolutely did not. It was definitely somebody else.
Okay.
What was the question we ended up answering?
It was what two animals you could put together.
Yeah, and like the only correct answer is liger, and someone else took that. So I was like, I don't even want to answer the question anymore.
Yeah, well, I started off and I said lion and an eagle, but everybody said that was too biblical. And so I had to change my answer to a fish and a cheetah. And I think everybody got a little disappointed in me. So.
Welcome to my world. Okay, so we got to know each other, and after the awkward, like, it was actually like this really cool gathering. It was funny because our entire Blaze staff came. Yeah. We came in full force. So like 14 of us walk in and just like take over the place.
It was awesome.
We got together for community. What was the other thing that you wanted us to do?
Well, I wanted to get to know each other, one, and then two, I wanted to hear what God had been doing throughout our city. And part of coming together in unity is celebrating what God is doing through everybody. We're on the same team. We got the same goal. We all love Jesus. So let's celebrate what Jesus is doing. And then to pray together is a really powerful thing to cover our city in prayer. So.
Yeah, the celebration thing I really thought was interesting. You shared a story in particular. It's the reason I wanted you to come on the show about something that happened in y'all's church here locally this last semester. Why don't you share that story? I've been thinking about it ever since then.
Yeah, it's amazing. So it's so cool because it's the whole body working together and properly to see the kingdom come in people's lives. And so this was about like 2-3 months ago. There was a family that their car broke down. They were on the side of the road, and a college student that goes to our church saw them, stopped on the side of the road, and was trying to help them out. And in the process of helping them out, he simply told them that God really loved them a lot. And that was honestly about it. He was just sharing how much God loves them, and he didn't invite them to church or anything like that. And they were like, hey, so where do you go to church? And he told them, and then he left. And then they show up on Sunday, and they fill out. We have these little connect cards for new people if they want to get connected or anything. And so they fill that out. A couple of days go by, and one of the guys that works at our church called this family as he was driving home from work. And he was like, hey, do you want to get connected? We've got like this big potluck dinner thing that you can come to if you want. And she was like, yeah, I would love to, but I don't have a car, so I can't really get there. And he was like, okay, well, let me see what I can do. So he called the people who were hosting the potluck and said, hey, there's this lady. She wants to come and get connected, but she didn't have a car. Is there anybody you can have pick her up? And they said, yeah, we'll figure it out. So they get someone to pick her up. So she comes to this potluck dinner, and she brings her 3 kids with her. And so they're hanging out at the potluck, and one of the guys there was like, hey, our youth group is meeting like less than a mile down the road. If you want, we can take your kids to the youth group. And they were like, okay, yeah, sure. But the kids didn't really want to go. It was more like, you got to tell, like they said they got there and they're like, all right, it's time to go. And they're like, no, we're not going in there. And they're like, you're going to go in there. And so they told them to go. Anyways, these kids show up, and basically they walk in the middle of our youth group meeting, and really you can just tell that they've basically been through hell. Just a lot of brokenness and hard stuff. It's just, you know, when you like see people and you know that they've been through a lot. It was kind of that. And
every time I look in the mirror,
just shut your mouth. But so these kids walk in, and we welcome them in and to what we're doing, and so we go along with the night. And at one point in the night, one of our girl leaders walked up to the girl and pretty bold was like, hey, I know you don't know me at all, but just want to make it available. If you ever want somebody to talk to or anything, I just want you to know that you can talk to me. There's like no judgment or anything. If you want someone to talk to, I'm here. She was like, okay, well, I don't know why I'm going to do this, but can we talk? And she was like, yeah. So they start talking, and basically this girl unloads her story on one of our leaders, and there's a lot of brokenness and really hard stuff that she's been going through. And our girl just really just listened, was there for her, and encouraged her afterwards. And so then, you know, we have a retreat that was going on that weekend. So they invite this girl to retreat. We go and hang out, and then some crazy stuff started happening. Basically, 2 of our leaders for the girls, we had an all girls retreat and all guys retreat. 2 of our leaders get up and share their testimony and basically their life story of how God has changed their life, what they were at before Jesus, and then how they met Jesus and how it's been after Jesus and living with him. And one of our girls basically got up and was like, hey, I actually don't understand. Like, I've been through the same things that you guys have been through, but you guys are like really joyful and you seem like you're whole now. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. How? And so actually one of our 8th grade girls gets up and was like, all right, you need to know the gospel. Like, you need to know who Jesus is. And so she lays out the entire gospel for this girl and is like, hey, this is available to you right now. Is if you want it, like, God loved you and he sent Jesus, you know, the whole thing. And like, he's offering all of himself, like relationship with him to heal you, to set you free, to give you a new heart, a new nature, all of it. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I really want that. And
this sounds amazing.
Right? It's like incredible. And because it really is so good. It's like life-changing. And she's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I want Jesus, you know? And so they're like walking with her through it. And she gives her life to Jesus. They're all celebrating, praying for her, encouraging her. And then one of our other girls looks outside and she sees a hot tub. And she's like, well, I mean, you know, in the Bible, after people gave their life to Jesus, they would baptize them. Like, why do we have to wait, you know? And so they looked at each other like, you want to do that? And we're like, okay, yeah, sure. And so they kind of like explain a little bit behind baptism and the significance of it. And they literally go outside in the hot tub and baptize this girl. And I mean, really still today, she's like, looks like a completely different person. And she'll tell you that herself, like she feels like a completely different person and transformed, like new life, new nature, relationship with Jesus, in the process of coming into wholeness and healing from a really like hard and broken situations that she's been in. And she's finding hope now, and it's in Jesus. And so it's so cool because it's like, if the college student wouldn't have stopped on the side of the road, it wouldn't have happened. If the guy that works at her church didn't call her when he did, that wouldn't have happened. If the potluck leader wouldn't have got someone to pick her up, it wouldn't have happened. If the guy didn't say, hey, we got the youth group down the road, it wouldn't have happened. If our girl leader didn't talk to this girl, then it wouldn't have happened. If, all of it goes together, and it's a beautiful picture of the body like working together. It's not just a youth group thing. It's like the college, the family, the young adult, the youth group, the middle school student, all of it's involved. And I think it's cool because it goes along to the same thing of like why we met is it's like we're the whole body, and we got different aspects, passions that God has given us and expressions of how we like worship God. And it's so beautiful when we can all come together under the name of Jesus. And I really do believe that that's where we'll see really earth and Bryan and College Station begin to look like heaven. And so,
I really wish we had met in a hot tub by a lake instead of the lake stroll of sweat that we had.
Someday.
This story fascinates me. I really wanted people to hear it just because of it. It shows the need for us to be the body of Christ. I've heard this story. Father Anthony, you just heard it. Other people listening just heard this for the first time. What's your reaction to it?
It's just a beautiful story of God's providence working in like very ordinary ways. Like these are just very ordinary acts of genuine love that each person did, bringing them along. And you can see at the end of it all, kind of God's plan and the Spirit moving. But, it didn't take any experts to do what happened. Like certainly the people at your church, they know what they're doing and they're trained and all. But like just ordinary, genuine acts of love, slowly bringing this person, actually very quickly if you think about it, but just bringing this person to Jesus. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
All the way to the bubbly baptism. Just thinking about the bubbles in the hot tub while that was going just makes me so happy.
That reminds me, that part about just like, hey, there's some water outside just reminds me of the eunuch who was baptized in Acts of the Apostles. Like, hey, I've got the gospel. There's water right over there. Let's do this. Right? Got a biblical connection too in it. It was neat.
You just wanted to say the word eunuch on the radio. So
why you gotta be like that, Taylor?
You brought it up. You brought it up. I'm gonna yell louder than you. This is my show.
Sorry for quoting the Bible.
Priest in a box. Okay, Daniel, thanks for coming on. How can people find you? Are you on the social medias?
Bro, I'm off the grid.
Off the grid. Don't find Daniel. Just keep listening to the show. We'll probably have him back on at some point. He's like Ron Swanson. He likes hot tubs and doesn't like the grid. Father Anthony, thanks for coming on today. This has been another episode of Forte Catholic. This is usually the point where I tell you who next week's guest is. I have no idea. It's in like 3 weeks because it's Christmas. Merry Christmas. You'll hear an episode next week, but I'm not recording for quite a while. It's all very confusing, but whatever. What's new? See ya. Hello, friends. You made it to the end of the podcast. Congratulations. Now, here's the real deal. If you listened all this way, it means that you liked it in some capacity. Here's what I need you to do. Take 30 seconds before you listen to the next episode. Search in your iTunes or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Search for Forte Catholic. Go give it a review. It'll take you 30 seconds and will help me out a lot. And it'll help you help others make Catholicism fun again, which is essentially like evangelizing. So you're off the hook for that today. If you give me a review, go do it. Otherwise, I will be sad. Oh, have a good week.